Welcome to chapel. I am so glad that you are here. We're going to stand up, put our hands together, and sing praises to the God who is worthy of all our praise. Come on. In Daniel chapter 3, we hear the story of three men who find themselves as foreigners and exiles in a strange land, seeking to serve God. And their radical obedience leads them to a place where their lives are thrown on the line. The king throws them in the fiery furnace for not being willing to renounce their God in order to bow down to him. But as the king and his men look out into the fiery furnace, they don't see three men, they see four. And they see four men who are unbound and unharmed, and they say that the fourth one looks like a son of God. The good news for each and every one of us here today is that no matter what season of life you're in, whether life is good or life is hard or life is full of joy or it feels like you're walking through the fire, we have a God who is with us every step of the way. And we can rejoice because we have a loving Father who walks with us and who is here with us. And so I invite you to sing this with me as we rejoice in this truth. There's a grace when the heart is on fire. space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. I know I will never be alone. There was another in the fight, standing next to me. There was another in the waters, holding back the seas. Should I ever need reminding how I've been set free, there is a cross that bears the burden, where another died for me. There is another in the fight. All my debt left for dead beneath the waters. I'm no longer a slave to my sin anymore. And should I fall in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning, either way I won't bow to the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fire, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding what power set me free, there is a grave that has no body, and now that power lives in me. There is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. Oh, there is another in the fire. And I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to Him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between wasting. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us. There is no other name but the name that is Jesus. He who was and still lives and will be through it all. So come with me in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. And I know I will never be alone. Yes, I know I will never be
Bibles for us. Man, I am so, so glad that you are here with us today. We're going to continue with chapel today, but before we do that, why don't you meet someone new next to you, give them a high five, tell them they look great today, and then grab a seat.
All right, thank you very much. Man, we are blessed, are we not? It's exciting. Hey, I want to tell you on Thursday, we will not be having chapel necessarily. We'll be having small groups. We will have small groups all around campus. They will be led by, we have 20-some small groups, and you'll get an email about those small groups. So be watching for that. That's coming up this Thursday. I'm excited about that, and so watch for it. Don't come here. You can come to Herrick. There's a Faith and Film in there, but you'll get an email. I'm excited today to have David Eaton here. He, man, they reach over 100,000 people a month, and he is a culture translator. And I have asked him, and we've been talking about, and he wrote a book on the smartphone and what the influence of that is. And so, David, we welcome you. Welcome, David, to chapel at SNU.
Good morning. Okay, I have a tradition that when I start a chapel, I have everyone stand up. So I know you just stood up, but stand up one more time, turn to your neighbor and give him a hug, okay? Feel the love, big hug. There you go. That's what I like to see. Now sit down. So you've been talking about spiritual formation, and this is the journaling week, and we already have journals in our pockets everywhere we go. We're always journaling. It's always being journaled about us with the smartphone. So my job is to start the conversation about the smartphone. If you look at this screen, I'm going to start off with one of our favorite mottos at Axis, and it is that the issue is not unanswered questions. We will always have unanswered questions. The smarter you get, the more unanswered questions you have. So instead, the issue is unquestioned answers. And so I have a startup that I created a few years ago, and we're serving about 100,000 folks right now to help them think deeply about the world that we all live in. And so to get us started, I have an awareness test for you. We'll see.
How many passes does the team in white make?
All right, pay attention. How many passes does the team in white make? Come on, SNU. Come on, how many? How many?
The answer is 13.
Yes.
But did you see the moonwalking bear?
One more time.
Go!
It's easy to miss something you're not looking for. And so that's what we get to do with the smartphone today. I want to learn from you, and in order to talk about the smartphone, how it's awesome, but how there's a lot of things that cause us to have a sense of loss, I actually want you to get your phones out. So get your phones out, get them out, get them out. We're going to use them. And this is what the number that I want you to text. Okay, so this is your number. Oh, I'll go back one, sorry. Actually, it's at the bottom. You can read that. 719-297-1106. I just want you to text in an answer right now for me. And my first question for you is, what is your favorite cereal? What is your favorite cereal? Text it in. 719-297-1106. All right. Blair, we have any answers?
We got Cocoa Puffs,
Cocoa
Raisin
Puffs.
Bran, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Cinnamon Toast Crunch is winning. Apple Jacks, Trix, Captain Crunch.
Okay. So you guys know how it works.
Frosted Flakes.
Okay, next one is actually, man, we're gonna go back. Hold on. Speaking of technology, I'm just gonna have someone in the back, in the booth, if you can just click forward whenever I wave at you. I'm gonna do Jedi mind tricks. So because the remote control's not working, or we'll see. So my next question is just raise your hand. Do you have an iPhone? Raise your hand if you have an iPhone. Okay, hands down. Raise your hand if you have Android. Oh, those green bubbles messing up group text everywhere. And we'll keep with this for a little bit longer and see if it works. Okay, so here's the deal. We're going to start the conversation, and there are things that are just not possible without our phones. For example, awesome videos like this.
I am the one, no way your son don't need a gun to get respect up on the screen. Under the sun, the bastard son will pop the clock to feed himself and family.
So that's great. That is possible. Also, things like this are not possible without our phones. This is some classic satire. I love it. It's about 90 seconds.
Stop. Are you Kirsten Dunst? Yeah, that's me. Hi, how are you? Hi. Cool. Cool. Oh. Don't you want your friend to take it? I don't trust her. Great. All right. Got it? Cool. Do you want to talk or anything? I mean, you can ask me a question, or are you curious about anything? I mean,
Can you tag me?
That was gonna be my question too.
Maybe you.
you can tag people.
You can tag people. So it'll show up on my profile.
Okay.
Thank you.
Priceless. So the smartphones are awesome, and it's our job today to look past the topsoil and into the depths of how they fit together, how they work together, what is even a theology of our smartphones. So let's get started with the big picture. Now, what I mean by the big picture as Christians, I just mean our worldview, our gospel, our good news. And so it starts with this sense of wonder. Then things get upside down, and then I have that big word reconciliation there at the bottom. So starting off with a sense of wonder, the Christian narrative has a story that includes technology. So God creates the world. How does he create the world? He creates it awesome. He says it's good. Behold, it was very good. And part of this goodness is putting humanity in a garden, saying work and keep, cultivate, be fruitful, multiply, fill. It's this very hard work, creativity, creation mandate is what it's called. But it's kind of high-risk behavior because God is actually inviting us into his world. So imagine if Steve Jobs, he creates this, right? And he says, I don't have a name for it. So how about you name it? When people make stuff, they never let someone else name it. But here, God creates the universe, and he says, hey, Adam, why don't you name it? And so what could that look like? Well, kind of high risk.
There are many animals. One type of animal is a bird, and some are wild, like the beach chicken, formal chicken, freedom glider, fancy butt, and the pantless thunder goose. Burbs also make good pets, like lovebirds, or a mohawk, or a bouncy burb. There's also Photoshop burbs, like burbs with arms, burbs with no legs, and when a doggo and a burb come together, that's a dird. Heckin' rare. Another animal is a sneck. Some snakes are friendly pets and might even be snazzy, or be a scrunchie, or go for walks. Other snakes are much venom. Don't heck around with a danger noodle, or a nope rope, or a slippery tube dude. If it's not a burb, sneck, doggo, or a catto, it's some other animal, and some of the other animals are aqua animals, like the panda whale, sea flat, the floating potato, and the American murder log. Some other animals are land animals. Chief of all is a wizard cow. There's also the danger zebra, flop wop, tree floof. Here's a tired tree floof. Stab rabbit, giraffe sheep, and last but not least, the fart squirrel.
So here, we're in this world. We're supposed to take care of it. I got my degree in mechanical engineering, and my hardest professor was a Christian, and he had this verse on his door. It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings to search them out. So what's the idea? God creates this world full of wonder, full of latent energy, but there's not an iPhone tree. But there is silicon. There's not an Android, but there's the raw materials to make the world that we have now, to be creative with it. And what I love here, it just says it's the glory of kings. So it's the glory of kings, it's the glory of queens to be able to make this happen. And as we think about creating in God's world, it's like that. So in order to think about the glory of the phone, I think it's better to start off with the glory of the pencil.
Look at this lead pencil. There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. To cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen with the help of the British government. This brass ferrule, I haven't the slightest idea where it came from, or the yellow paint, or the paint that made the black lines, or the glue that holds it together. Literally thousands of people cooperated to make this pencil. People who don't speak the same language, who practice different religions, who might hate one another if they ever met. When you go down to the store and buy this pencil, you are in effect trading a few minutes of your time for a few seconds of the time of all those thousands of people.
So that's the glory of the pencil. Now multiply it by 10,000, the glory of the smartphone. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to turn to your neighbor. You have 1 minute and answer this question. What do you love or what is wonderful about your phone? 3, 2, 1, go. If I stand on this side, the remote control works. Nice. What do you love about your phone? Right. So FaceTime? Yeah. Right. I love the Photos app. I can share pictures of my kids without having to go on social media. Because I don't want to throw my picture of my kids everywhere. And then I love you so much. Okay, we're getting the hang of this. This is good. So the gospel says God creates this world full of wonder, but then just like, I love the analogy from Stranger Things, this alternate reality of brokenness. It's great watching little kids punch each other and cuss, right? And just my childhood right there back in the 80s. So then things become upside down, and the phone is no stranger to this upside downness, this brokenness, this fragmentation. So I actually want you to text in your answer this one. What do you hate about your phone? Or is there anything you don't like about how it makes you feel? Text 719-297-1106. I'll play a little bit of music. What do you hate about it? Blair, are the satellites sending any text messages yet?
Not yet. I got Fruity Pebbles.
Sometimes it takes a while. Ooh. Hey, I hear there's bad service in here. It's fine. We'll keep rolling with this, and he'll interrupt me. They'll all dump in here in a second. So what happens? You have this... You have sin, it enters the world. It's this dysfunction, it's this brokenness, it's this evil, it's the upside downness of shalom. Martin Luther calls this homo incurvatus in se, which is humanity curved in on itself. So instead of going forth and flourishing and being fruitful, multiplying, creating, instead we're upside down, we're inside out, we're turned in. Tim Keller would say it this way. He says it's the normal state of the, here we go, it's the normal state of the human heart to try to build its identity around something besides God. And if you try to put anything that was in the place that was originally made for God, it's going to be too small, it's going to rattle around in there, or as Brene Brown says, we're the most in-debt, obese, addicted, and medicated adult cohort in U.S. history. So what happens? There's this wonderful, incredible world full of latent energy. This brokenness creeps in, turns it upside down, and then all of a sudden what was right side up actually becomes a faceplant on reality, kind of like these faceplant videos. Oh, no. And here's the greatest one of all time. One more time. So evil is not God arbitrarily saying something is wrong. It's God creating a world full of flourishing that's very good, and evil is the twisting, the perversion, the brokenness, the upside downness of that. And so, Dr. Spindle, what do they hate about their phones?
They hate the expectations of people for me to answer the phone when you call. The battery life.
Battery.
This one says ex-girlfriend. Sometimes it texts my ex-girlfriend. It can be a distraction from what's really important. It steals productivity. My Bluetooth won't work. SNU Wi-Fi.
Yeah. So you're at college. When your mom texts you, does she expect you to get back to her? How quickly? Like that. Not just like later that day. Oh, you're dying if you don't. She's like doing a welfare check on you or something like that. Okay, so let's look at this. We're going to look at faith, hope, and love, really biblical words, right? And we're going to look at the upside down version of those words. And then we're going to talk about how the phone can offer the upside down version sometimes. So what does faith do? Faith looks at the past. It's the ability to rest and trust in goodness leading to delight. Now, I could have defined this philosophically. I'm defining these terms psychologically. So what is the opposite of faith? You look at the past and you're like, what? I've been stabbed in the back. I have been betrayed. It's the worst character in all of literature. Depression, which leads to hypervigilance, suspicion, exhaustion, leads to contempt towards ourselves, underlying self-critique and fragility. So that's betrayal in the past. Now, what's the other word? Hope. Hope looks to the future. And so as hope is looking to the future, it's a creative imagination of a better world, an ability to anticipate and experience greater, sweeter goodness. Hope provides an ability to risk. It's the playground of creativity. But what happens when you look to the future? And you look, and instead of a sense of hope, your hope is upside down. The opposite of hope is powerlessness. You look to the future, you have no ability to change it, you have no agency, you're stuck, so it's anxiety leading to despair. If you can ruin a person's sense of hope, you ruin their future. Without hope, you just indulge in the present. And by the way, depression is a thing of betrayal in the past. Anxiety is a psychological disorder when you look to the future and you feel powerlessness to impact it. So you have faith, hope, betrayal, powerlessness right in the middle. What's in the middle is love. So love is served by faith, it's served by hope, and it's the giving and receiving of goodness or pleasure to the glory of God. It's the sharing of delight and honor. But what happens? What's the opposite of love? Well, it could be hate, it could be apathy, but here's an idea for you to chew on. What if it's shame? Leading to contempt or self-hatred, a damning of your identity. You're a mistake, worthless, inadequate, unlovable. The natural response to shame is accusation and disassociation. And what's interesting is if you look in the creation narrative, right before the fall or sin creeps into the world, you have this final verse, this icing on the cake of a good, very good world is this. Adam and his wife were both naked and they felt no shame. The author of Genesis says there is no shame in this world. So faith, hope, and love, betrayal, powerlessness, and shame. The gospel continues on. So it starts with a state of wonder. A very good God creates a very good world. It becomes upside down because of our disobedience. Then I love the word reconciliation because it just means right relationships. The Bible says we have a ministry of right relationships. And so reconciliation is not just a relationship between you and I. It's a relationship between us and God, us and ourselves, us and each other, us and creation, us and our family. Right relationships, Augustine calls these rightly ordered loves. Because you can love something too much, that's idolatry. You can love something too little, that's called neglect. We have to put the first things first in the right order. Okay, so we talked about first, as Christians, we have this big picture. Our big picture view of the world, the gospel, is a world of wonder, a world of loss and upside downness, and a world of potential reconciliation. Our phones find themselves in that world. Then we have this technology, which is awesome. But what happens in this world of great technology when it comes upside down? So we're going to talk briefly about gossip, addiction, and sexting. So we're going to start off with gossip, okay? This has actually been one of the greatest challenges that I've faced at Axis. Leading a startup, just getting our staff to talk about each other the right way and direct conflict the right way. But slander is saying something that's damaging and false. So you're saying something that you're lying about someone, and it's damaging, right? However, what's gossip? Well, gossip's a little bit more complicated because it's saying something behind someone's back that is damaging and true or false. And we live in a world of mouth where there are so many new ways to gossip. But what does the Bible say? Again, it's affirming the goodness of our ability to speak and also the challenges with that. So the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. But again, what happens when it becomes upside down? See, Peter Thiel said this, the future promised us flying cars. Instead, we got 140 characters. He's talking about what? Twitter, which now has, of course, what? 280 characters. And you know, no one is immune from this, even Dave Chappelle.
So then I go on Twitter, and it's the same thing. It's like, oh, it's a fake Dave Chappelle. My name, my picture, was not me.
No.
So I start following the guy. And it turned out, Jimmy, the guy was like hilarious. He was like,
That's even worse.
yeah, I was like, yo, this guy's like, he's funny. And then he started having like all this fun, like girls were tweeting him all these sexy messages. I'm like, dang, who is this guy? And then, like a week or two into it, he just turns evil. And he starts like tweeting all this stuff to comedians I work with, and starts like a whole Twitter beef with this guy, Cat Williams. You know Cat?
Absolutely, Cat Williams. Yeah. So fake Dave Chappelle starts to fight with Cat Williams? The real Cat Williams?
Right, well that's the problem, that Cat Williams starts saying things to this fake Dave Chappelle that's hurting the real Dave Chappelle's feelings.
Wow. This is fantastic.
Yeah, so then like maybe like a couple weeks ago, I go to this, they have like this Def Jam comedy night thing on Sunset. Bob Sumner hosts this thing. So I go to the comedy show and I see Kevin Hart there. I'm like, what's up, Kevin? And he's like, yo, man, Cat's here. Like I was in trouble or something. Like, what? So I said, well, where's he at? So then I go over to Cat and I'm like, yo, Cat, man, you know, I gotta talk to you. I don't have a Twitter page. And he's like, so what, Dave Chappelle? He's like, what are you trying to say? I'm like, I'm trying to say I don't have a Twitter page. He goes, so that's not unusual. I don't have a Twitter page either.
So what happened? The fake Dave Chappelle and the fake Cat Stevens were fighting with each other on Twitter, hurting each other's feelings, right? And so here we live in a world where we don't even have to be face to face to say mean things to each other. Actually, you don't have to use words. You can just post a nasty picture or just leave someone out of a picture. We were at a high school, and these two girls were saying terrible things about each other on Instagram. And so this teacher printed off a transcript of what they said, printed it out, and made them read it out loud to each other. So that's like some King Solomon next level like ninja stuff, right? So again, they instantly start crying, okay, because we become disassociated because of betrayal. So I love this quote that's attributed to Soren Kierkegaard. He says, once you label me, you negate me. Once you stereotype me, you don't have to get to know me. You just put me in your box and you can control me. Okay, so here's my next question. 719-297, how have you been gossiped about online? How have you been gossiped about online? 3, 2, 1, go. Send them in, 719-297-1106. So we're going to continue on while the fabulous SNU Wi-Fi catches up, and then I'll have Blair give me some answers here in a second. Thanks for doing this. It makes it so much more fun for me, and I hope you're enjoying it too. Okay, so technology, we just talked about, we live in a world of mouth, in a world of gossip. What is gossip? Gossip is betrayal. It's the opposite of faith. Now, this next section is probably the most interesting section about addiction. And to get started, turn to your neighbor. You have 1 minute. Talk about this. What is your favorite app? 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, question for you. This is either Instagram or Snapchat. Who likes Snapchat better? Hands down. Raise your hand up if you like Instagram better. And question for you, do you even care about TikTok? Are you feeling it? Okay, so TikTok's back. What if your favorite app is your favorite app because of the pleasure chemical in your brain, dopamine? Here's a video from Anderson Cooper where he interviews the founder of Dopamine Labs.
Brown studied neuroscience before co-founding Dopamine Labs.
A computer programmer who now understands how the brain works knows how to write code that will get the brain to do certain things.
Because it's a proven way to keep you searching longer.
You don't pay for Facebook. Advertisers pay for Facebook. You get to use it for free because your eyeballs are what's being sold there. So
that's an interesting way to look at that, that you're not the customer for Facebook.
You're not the customer. You don't send a check to Facebook, but Coca-Cola does.
On Instagram, he told us sometimes those likes come in a sudden rush.
Check this out.
They're holding some of them back for you to let you know later in a big burst. Like, hey, here's the 30 likes we didn't mention from a little while ago.
So all of a sudden you get a big burst of likes.
Yeah, but why that moment? There's some algorithm somewhere that predicted, hey, for this user right now, who's experimental subject 79B3 and experiment 231, we think we can see an improvement in his behavior if you give it to him in this burst instead of that burst.
Did you catch that? You don't get likes in real time necessarily on Instagram because that doesn't deliver enough dopamine for us to stay hooked. So some of them will be held back, deployed all at once, so we get a bigger hit of dopamine in our brain. And how much does it cost to be on Instagram? How much does it cost? It's free, right? It's free. How much does Snapchat cost? It's free. All of it's free. So if it's free, we're not the customers, we're the products being sold in an attention economy. And the more that we can become hooked, the better. So back to the how have we been gossiped about online? Do you have any answers?
Said a girl thought I was in love with her boyfriend. Someone said I was pregnant. Whoa. Someone said I do the gossiping. Someone said my mom disses me on Twitter.
Okay.
TikTok, Twitter, Spotify.
Thank you.
Fake
Spotify.
SNU Twitter accounts. Yeah. So-called friends, cyberbullying, Ask FM.
Okay, so Teen Smartphone Addictional Survey 2018. Down here it says 65% of teens wish they had a greater ability to self-limit the amount of time they spend on their phone. Oh, and I forgot to tell you something. You know that awareness test video I played at the beginning with the moonwalking bear? I've been doing an awareness test on all of you this entire chapel. So see if you can figure out what the moonwalking bear is, and on this presentation, I'll ask at the end. Sorry, I should have told you that at the beginning. But 65% of teens wish they had a greater ability to self-limit the amount of time they spend on their phone. I know I do. I have 3 little kids, and I'm a terrible dad when I have my phone with me. And so once or twice a week, I will actually leave my phone in my car. Just from when I get home and get at 8 a.m. the next morning, just so I can be present for my kids because I am just so hooked to this thing. It's causing me to not be as present. Okay, so we talked about technology, and so the first thing we talked about gossip, which is betrayal. We talk about addiction, which is the opposite of hope, which is powerlessness. And yeah, now I'm going to talk about porn and sexting in a tasteful way to get us thinking deeper about those topics. Here's my first question to you. Not turn your neighbor. Text us in 719-297-1106. Do you think sexting is common? Do you think sexting is common? Yes or no? Why or why not? Don't you like the clarinet solo in the background? Isn't that great? Okay, Blair.
Yes. In middle school, yes. I mean, I haven't. Common in society as a whole, yes. HCK, yes. I try, but it isn't catching on. Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to read that one. Yes. Yes.
So let me quote the Pope, or a past Pope, when we talk about sexting, pornography. Remember, we're talking about the opposite of love. We're talking about shame. He says, the problem is not that porn shows too much of the person, but that it shows too little. This is what Rashida Jones has to say about that.
I had like a bit of like a tipping point with pop culture. I saw so much imagery in 1 week that was just like fully inspired by porn and stripper culture. And it just felt like something that we were forced to accept, and we never got a chance to have a conversation about it. That message, that really homogenized, myopic message that your sex is the thing that makes you valuable, that is your currency, that limits women's choices. Like, it's across the board now with Instagram, social media, pop stars, actresses. Like, it feels like you have to be sexy to be noticed.
It's reductionistic, so it takes something so complex and awesome and wonderful that makes babies and civilizations and joins marriages together and turns it into just like body parts on a screen, and it's actually a drug. It is a drug. It's like, think of pornography as a drug. So pornography promises three things. It promises satisfaction, purpose, and freedom. It says, hey, you can have pleasure on demand. You don't have to work for it. Your purpose, one of our purposes in life is to have intimacy. So it's like, here's a shortcut to feeling intimacy. And then this idea of freedom, like I don't have to have a commitment, and yet I can have this Gnostic or this immaterial version of sexuality. The sad thing about the upside downness of this is it's actually broken satisfaction. Here, you'll see it on the screen here. It actually takes more intense pornography for the excitement to happen, so you have to have more extreme for less excitement. This is a VHS tape I found of like James Dobson back in the day interviewing Ted Bundy hours before he was about to be executed.
My experience with, I say pornography generally, but with pornography that deals on a violent level with the sexuality, is that once you become addicted to it, and I look at this as a kind of addiction, like other kinds of addiction, I would keep looking for more potent, more explicit, more graphic kinds of material. Like an addiction, you keep craving something which is harder, something which gives you a greater sense of excitement, until you reach the point where the pornography only goes so far. You reach that jumping off point where you begin to wonder if maybe actually doing it will give you that which is beyond just reading about it.
Creepy. I'm not saying that everyone who looks at porn is going to become him, but what is he saying? He says it leads to acting out, and that's what sexting is. It's the step after that. It has this broken purpose. As a porn star once said, she said, my job was to make you hate your wife. And then broken freedom, not only does it enslave the person who's addicted to it, it enslaves the people in the industry. And so again, pornography is that double-edged sword, which is locking us down. Again, and most of it is viewed, actually Pornhub has 32 billion views per year. And majority of that is on mobile devices, and it's slowly fragmenting. It's turning something awesome and wonderful that's meant to be celebrated, turning it upside down. So technology is amazing, but it can be used, as I jump back here, for gossip, which is a form of betrayal, for addiction, which is a form of hopelessness and powerlessness, and sexting and pornography, which is a form of shame. And as you think about spiritual disciplines, as you're talking about this, and by the way, me talking about pornography will not help anyone. Actually, if you're stuck in it, you're going to feel shamed right now, and that'll probably make it worse. And so I feel guilty with that. The way out is through community. The way out is through boundaries. The way out is through joining together and saying, look, I want something better and something deeper, and I'm addicted to this. And just knowing the truth about it is not going to bring you to sobriety. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. So we talked about the big picture. So what is the gospel? Wonder, loss, reconciliation. We talked about technology and looked at some of the ditches that we could fall into. I'm going to finish with a question. And so I want you to turn to your neighbor and discuss this question. A student said this to me. I want to see what you think. She said, the stricter the college, the sneakier the student. True or false? Turn and talk to your neighbor. True. Okay, I'll pull the... So what's interesting about this quote, the stricter the college, the sneakier the student, this is actually a quote that someone said, the stricter the parent, the sneakier the child. It is true if there is no trust. If there is no trust, if there is no faith, if there is no hope, if there is no love, you are just stuck under an authoritarian figure, and guess what? Your only option is to sneak. But if there is faith, if there is hope, if there is love, if there is trust that's being built, then there is that opportunity. And actually, the answer to this riddle, I had a grandpa say this to me: stricter the parent, sneakier the child; stricter the college, sneakier the student. He said, "Are you a concealer or are you a confessor?" Are you a concealer? And what does concealing do? It alienates you. It makes you alone, and we are the worst version of ourselves when we're alone. Or are you a confessor? Are you vulnerable and in community? Is there faith, hope, and love? Or as this final quote says, you're only as sick as your secrets. So as we think about that's an Alcoholics Anonymous quote. As we think about these incredible smartphones, the glory of the smartphone, it allows us to connect. There's so many amazing things that happens. May we embrace what is wonderful about it, reject what is upside down, and find new ways to reform it, reconcile it, and redeem it. Thanks for joining me in chapel. You're amazing. Oh yeah, awareness test. What was my awareness test? Everything was in black and white. She wins. I designed this entire presentation in grayscale to show that there's only certain depth that you can get with your phones. Where in real life, being with real people in living color, as I saw on a sign, it's better. You're dismissed. Get out of here. Go to class. And keep the conversation going.